You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation will take the fall. The saints, across the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey yo, welcome back to Reliving the War Soldier and welcome to the 14th of February 2000. Raw's in San Jose, California, while Nitro's in Uniondale, New York. On the previous episode of Thunder, Ric Flair issued a challenge to Hulk Hogan while also seemingly forming an alliance with Lex Luger. We will see Flair and Hogan lock it up once again tonight on Nitro, so we're going back in time. Oddly enough though, I am looking forward to it. Also on Thunder, Kevin Nash made his return via satellite and he ordered a Jeff Jarrett vs Scott Hall match where the winner would face Sid at SuperBrawl this week. Nash was annoyed that he couldn't leave these kids alone for 5 minutes without the NWO completely falling apart. The finish to Hall vs Jarrett was inconclusive, but we will find out who's competing in the SuperBrawl main event in just a moment when the NWO open up Nitro with a promo. On SmackDown, Kurt Angle became the new European champion when he defeated Val Venus, and in the main event, Triple H and X-Pac took on Kane. The match ended when Triple H used a steel chair, but Kane got revenge after the bell. He took Hunter out and then he planted Tori with a tombstone piledriver. It serves you right for being such a dirty dog. We have loads to get through today, but before we get started, this week's jam-up guy is Justin Blood. You wish you had a name like Justin Blood. Here he is with Ted DiBiase doing the $1 Million Man's famous pose with his imaginary suspenders. Top work, lad. Everyone's got a price. I want to put that excellent shirt up on the brand new chinlocks.com store, by the way, so if anyone's looking for it, it will be there soon. Thank you, Justin, and I hope you and everyone else enjoys Reliving the War episode 223. Triple H opens up Raw this week alongside DX and the Radicals. On Nitro, we've got an NWO promo. Just to let you know, 3 days before this episode of Nitro, a bunch of guys who worked for the company and also some guys who got released filed a racial discrimination lawsuit against WCW, including Bobby Walker and Sonny Ono. They contested that wrestlers and personalities who weren't Caucasian weren't getting pushed, they hadn't been paid as well, and they had been given offensive and demeaning gimmicks. It's also been said that wrestlers of colour ended up getting pushed due to this lawsuit, and Stevie Ray more or less confirmed that this was the case when he got a job at the commentary table. But look all this up yourself when you get a chance. I'd end up spending way too much time on it, and the runtime for this episode would be insane. It is something that's worth noting though as we move forward. Ron Harris says, "We're looking at the elite right now and I beg to differ." Don says the NWO is not dead, and again, I beg to differ. If this is what the NWO's come to, the Harris brothers and Jeff Jarrett, then I'm sorry, I'd rather never see the NWO logo ever again. Double J says he's going to become champion this week at SuperBrawl. Jeff's overcome the WCW booking committee trying to make changes, and he's overcome Kevin Nash trying to make his buddy world champion. But Jeff promises that the chosen one will leave the Cow Palace this week as our new champion. Kevin Nash then appears on the screen along with the nurses who have been taking care of his injury. Jeff calls him a slap ass, and Jeff threatens to break Dave Penzer's neck if the satellite feed doesn't get cut off. Bit harsh, you may think, but the plan works. The feed gets cut off and Jarrett continues his promo. Moments later, the Wolfpack music plays in the arena and Nash comes out. Big Kev's at Nitro tonight, and officially, he's still WCW president or commissioner, take your pick. Nash isn't worried about the Harris brothers or Jeff trying to attack him because his surgically repaired foot will still fit nicely up Jeff's ass, even with the metal screws and plates he's got inside of it. After what happened on Thunder, Kev's made a decision about who the number one contender is. It's Scott Hall, and it's also Jeff Jarrett. Both men are going to face Big Sid at the pay-per-view in a triple threat match. Jeff doesn't care, he still says he's going to win the belt this week, so get this. Kev books Jeff Jarrett vs Sid Vicious tonight on Nitro in a non-title match. The match we all thought we were going to see at SuperBrawl is actually happening tonight. A bit later on, Jeff complains to the booking committee and he wants this main event to be for the world title. And when the committee phone Kevin Nash, Kevin ends up agreeing. So the title could change hands mere days before SuperBrawl. Tony Schiavone then hypes up tonight's matches and he says it's been 5 years since Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan have gone at it, completely forgetting they wrestled it uncensored in SuperBrawl last year, and if you want to be picky and exclude pay-per-view matches, they had a Nitro one-on-one match in January 1996, 4 years ago, and a match at Clash of the Champions in August 96. We're also going to see the Total Package take on Terry Funk later, so it's a pretty stacked episode of Nitro tonight. On Raw, DX and the Radicals are in the ring, and Stephanie's mere presence makes the crowd boo like crazy. A replay of what Kane did to Tori gets shown on the Titantron. Stephanie blames the fans for what happened on SmackDown, and so if it's suffering the fans want, it's suffering they're gonna get. Hunter thinks he and everyone in the ring have maybe been a little too soft on their enemies. Tonight, DX and the Radicals aren't going to show any kindness nor weakness, so Hunter books a few matches. Grandmaster Sexay versus the Road Dogg, Scotty 2 Hotty versus Billy Gunn, Saturn and Malenko are going to take on Rikishi in a 2-on-1 match. The Rock's going to face Chris Benoit, and as for Kane, well, Kane needs to be taught a lesson. He needs to be taught a lesson about respecting women. Kane can't go around beating up females due to his sexual inadequacies, so at No Way Out, Kane's going to face X-Pac in a no-holds-barred match. But in order to get to the pay-per-view, Kane has to win a 2-on-1 no DQ match later on Raw. The Big Red Machine's going to face Triple H and a partner of his choosing. Two Cool's music plays and the group walks down the ramp. They are closely followed by Paul Bearer and Kane. And finally, The Rock shows up for a big old brawl inside the ring. The babyfaces may be outnumbered here, but they still overcome the bad guys as the crowd goes crazy. It's like a continuation from last week's main event. Raw's also got a pretty stacked show, so this should be a good episode of Reliving the War.
We all get tired, I know how it goes. You need a little something to smash up your nose. Dial 811 LOL HBK. Sean Sniff Sniff Service will brighten up your day. Sean Sniff Sniff Delivery Service. Super kick your face, make you feel alright. Sean Sniff Sniff Delivery Service. One little snort and you'll be high as a kite.
On Raw, we've got Edge versus Jeff Hardy versus D-Von Dudley in a triple threat match. On Nitro, 3-count take on Norman Smiley, Lane, and Idol. Yeah, they've dropped Lenny's first name and they're now just calling him Lane. A terrible name if I've ever heard one. And Lodi is now called Idol because, well, work it out for yourself, genius. Idol decides he's going to go to the club instead and pick up a few rats, so Lane and Smiley wrestled 3-count at a disadvantage. That was until Miss Hancock showed up. Before that though, check this out, Lane went for a somersault plancha and everyone decided, yeah, fuck that, I'm not grabbing him. And he smacked the floor pretty hard, poor guy. Miss Hancock said Lane and Idol made a mistake by leaving the Standards and Practices group. She then gets on the commentary table just before Norman can give us a big wiggle. And Miss Hancock gives a little wiggle herself that makes the 3-count boys stop dead in their tracks. Smiley uses this sexy distraction to put Evan in the Norman Conquest and 3-count take a loss. The boys will get a chance at revenge when they face Norman in a 3-on-1 match this week at SuperBrawl. And as always, I will be covering the event this Sunday. On Raw, we've got a triple threat match, and whichever man wins this bout, his respective team will get a tag team title shot at No Way Out. Matt, Bubba Ray, and Christian stood on the outside while their partners went at it inside the ring. Edge and Jeff worked together, and D-Von had to pretty much fight a 2-on-1 match here, but when Edge went for a cover, Jeff was quick to break it up. Matt and Christian kept Bubba away from the ring as Jeff delivered a twist of fate and a swanton bomb to D-Von. And when Edge broke up Jeff's follow-up cover, the babyfaces started shoving each other around. They refocused for a moment when they went after D-Von again, but Edge went for a spear and he ended up taking Jeff out. D-Von took advantage seconds later with a reverse DDT, and the Dudley Boys became the #1 contenders for the tag team belts. Seeing as it is Valentine's Day, Mark Henry's booked Mae Young and himself into a honeymoon suite for the evening.
Let's get it on.
Big Mark carries his bird into the room. He puts a do not disturb sign on the door, but he did let a WWF cameraman inside so we could see what happens. Lucky us. Mark sweet talks Mae by saying, "To see you smile is like watching a sunrise. The more it happens, the brighter the skies."
He's an animal!
An animal! An animal!
And a bit later on, we see Mark getting ready for Mae's grand entrance into the bedroom, something that makes Jerry Lawler throw up in his crown. A bit later on, the two share Valentine's gifts. Mark got May some chocolates, while May got Mark some edible underwear. Killing two birds with one stone right there, May. So Miss Young sticks him on and Mark gets down to work.
Tutti frutti!
Road Dogg takes on Grandmaster Sexay next on Raw. On Nitro, Tank Abbott batters Ric Flair. That creep Big Al tried to jump Abbott before the match, but Doug Dillinger ran down to help out the guy who wrecked him just a few weeks ago. Thank you, Double D. One punch knocks Fuller out, and after the bout, we see a pre-taped interview with Mr. Abbott conducted by Mike Tenay. After calling himself the only real fighter who competed in the UFC, and after saying he only cared about hurting people and not necessarily his win-loss record, he says he wants to challenge his old friend Big Al to a skins match. What is a skins match? Basically, it's a jacket on a pole match. Vince Russo may be gone, but my god, his legacy lives on in WCW. For a bit of context, Abbott says he once would have gave Al the jacket off his back, but Al's going around saying he'd just take the jacket away from his old buddy. So Wank Abbott's going to put his jacket on a pole. Whoever gets it first wins, and that battle for the ages is going to take place at SuperBrawl. Over on Raw, I can't get enough of Grandmaster Sexay's entrance. This never got old for me, no matter how dumb it looked. Road Dogg likes to think he's a better dancer than the Grandmaster, but he's not. He's a terrible dancer. Road Dogg takes a full Nelson facebuster from Brian, and the DOGG got his face smacked into the ring steps on the outside. When the two get back in the ring, Rhodey again tried to outdance Grandmaster Sexay, so Brian performed a super kick followed by a middle rope bulldog. Jesse slows the match down with a little chin abuse. It's never not effective. But Christopher digs down deep and he breaks free, proceeding to drop Rhodey on the top rope with a front suplex. The Grandmaster performs a DDT followed by a power slam. He was looking pretty good here. He unfortunately missed a Tennessee Jam though, and this allowed Road Dogg to win with his pump handle drop. I think the mission here was to make Grandmaster Sexay look as good as possible even in defeat, and I'd say it was mission accomplished. Al Snow's trying to hypnotize his partner Steve Blackman into believing he's got a winning smile and engaging personality, and that he's head cheese. Blackman takes the watch away and he shoves it in Snow's mouth, because it's now time for a real motherfucking problem as these two take on the Godfather and D'Lo next on Raw. On Nitro, we've got Billy Kidman and Vampiro versus Prince Ikea and La Parka. So Steve comes to the ring and he's offered a night with the Godfather's creatures. Godfather has tried this before and Steve didn't give in to temptation. And, you know, seeing as Steve's a bit down and out these days, I thought he was going to dive in head first and bury himself deep into whatever filthy hole he laid his eyes on first. But no, Steve Blackman doesn't need no $5 fast company. He tells Godfather to stick his women up his hole, and Godfather says he plans on doing just that a bit later on. And Godfather then calls our hero head cheese, something that delights Al Snow no end. Steve was all business here and he had the match won after a devastating dropkick and a signature Blackman torpedo, but for some reason his partner went out to play with a hoe and Steve took his eye off the ball. This allowed D'Lo to win with a roll-up and Blackman was furious. So furious that he almost unleashed Shin Blackman and Al Snow panicked. Luckily, Snow talked his partner out of it by promising no more head cheese shenanigans next week, so Steve went back to the dojo to level himself out again. Super dangerous stuff here, guys. Blackman's a ticking time bomb. On Nitro, Vampiro and Kidman make for an interesting tag team. These two have shown each other respect even though they have competed against each other in the ring, but their friendship's also a bit rocky, as evidenced by last week's Kidman vs. Wall match. The Artist, meanwhile, is aiming for the Cruiserweight title as he faces Psychosis this week on Thunder for a place in the tournament final. And he wonders if Psychosis, and I quote, feels a quiver of excitement for their upcoming match. I do feel something, mate, but it's not excitement. And then we've got La Parka, a guy we haven't seen enough of on Monday Nitro, so it's pretty great that he's competing here tonight. We have separate entrances here and they take way too long. The entrances are longer than the match itself. Early on, we can see that Kidman and Vampiro may not be on the same page as Kidman tags in Vamp. Billy Boy's still annoyed that Vampiro tried to help him out last week. And things got worse for Vampy Balls when La Parka slapped him so hard that the chairman just had to strut afterwards. Still, La Parka paid for this with a pretty rough fall to the outside. Tori and Paisley end up going at it, something that Mark Madden gets super excited about, and something that leads to Billy Kidman getting distracted. Kidman wasn't in his corner when Vampiro needed the tag, and when Kidman did get on the apron, Vampiro tagged him in before leaving Billy high and dry. Kidman couldn't overcome the 2-on-1 advantage. The artist wins with a diving DDT, and we will see Vampiro versus Billy Kidman at SuperBrawl later in the week. The Mamalukes don't want to work tonight. Johnny the Bull wants to go home and get himself a cheese sandwich, but Disco has a surprise for the boys. A surprise wedding reception. How this is even possible, I don't know, but the whole family's here and there's lots of spaghetti, meatballs, pizza, and delicious crime. Vito's sister's getting married, and check this out, it's such a big surprise that Vito's got money on hand for his sister to put down a payment on a house. Good thing he brought that big envelope full of cash to Nitro tonight, right? Oklahoma then presented a women's championship match between Mona and Ronda Singh. He brought Medusa out to serve as the referee, but clearly Oklahoma was favouring Ronda. He held on to her when Mona went for a sunset flip. Medusa broke things up. Ronda then punched Medusa and Oklahoma made the 3 count. It's his division, so I guess he can do whatever he wants. Ronda kisses Oklahoma after the bout, and the commentators think these two may have a special kind of relationship. No one cared then, and no one cares now. Meanwhile, at the wedding reception, Vito introduces Disco to the family while Johnny gets smacked on the head by his mom. Johnny still wants a cheese sandwich, and unfortunately, none are available at this wise guy wedding reception. New European champion Kurt Angle cuts a promo next on Raw. On Nitro, we've got the total package taking on Terry Funk. Angle puts Europe over, talking about how the European economy and tourism rates are through the roof, while in America, the stock market's plummeted and crime rates are at an all-time high. Funnily enough, this all happened the moment Chris Jericho won the Intercontinental belt. So Angle wants to help America the same way he's helped Europe. He's challenging Chris to an IC Championship match at No Way Out. Kurt wants Chris to come out for a little chat, but before that happens, Kurt shows footage of Chyna on The Tonight Show. Angle says Chyna embarrassed herself because of the way she dressed. Kurt would never do such a thing because he's got the 3 eyes, and that's when Jericho interrupts the European champion. He's heard enough. Chris is now a full-blown babyface, in case you haven't noticed. He welcomes the fans to Raw is Jericho, and he tells Angle to shut the hell up. Chris says America hasn't fallen into decline, it's fallen asleep listening to Kurt Angle's promo. And while he's not sure if he'll give Kurt an IC title shot at No Way Out, he will give him a Y2J ass kicking right now. Chris hits the ring, the two begin to brawl. Officials run down to break it up, but Chyna appears just as Kurt's getting ready to leave the ring. Chyna plants Angle with a DDT that the cameras totally missed, and the promo ends with Chris and Chyna celebrating in the ring. Angle vs Jericho does sound good though, so another match to look forward to at No Way Out. Over on Nitro, Lex Luger waits for Liz to rip his filthy pants off, but instead Terry Funk's there to do the honours. Terry goes on offense right away and Lex gets pummeled in the corner. Package gets choked out on the middle rope. Lex does get a chance to catch his breath after throwing Terry to the outside, and Funk takes a clothesline from Luger. Terry throws Lex into the guardrail before setting up a table. Miss Elizabeth gets Terry's attention though, and this allows Luger to go back on offense. Funk gets brought back to the table and Lex performs a press slam. Terry goes through the furniture and yeah, great bump here. But instead of going for the pin, Lex wants to do a bit more damage. Funk takes a suplex followed by a body slam. The total package signals for the rack. Terry avoids it by hitting a low blow, and this gets followed up with a DDT. Terry goes for his moonsault, but he doesn't notice Liz sliding Lex's chair into the ring. Funk's leg lands right on the steel, and the referee calls for the bell when Terry takes a chair shot right to the head. I guess this is grounds for a DQ, but the table spot was not. Arn Anderson shows up and he takes the chair away before Funk gets his arm broke, so it looks like the enforcer still wants to look out for Terry, even after he said he was done last week. Mean Gene Okerlund makes an announcement. It won't be the world title that's up for grabs tonight in the Nitro main event, it's going to be Jeff Jarrett's US title. This makes Kevin Nash spit his whipped cream all over the place, and Sid got a good laugh out of this too. Double J, meanwhile, wasn't so happy. Next on Raw, we've got The Rock vs Chris Benoit, while on Nitro, it's a triple threat tag team match featuring Flair and Crowbar, Harlem Heat 2000, and the Mamalukes. The Rock takes the early advantage, though he has to deal with a few knife-edge chops from Chris. Benoit's definitely taking it a lot easier here in comparison to the way he chopped folks in WCW. He pulls off a hook clothesline followed by a snap suplex. Rock comes back with a swinging neckbreaker, but Eddie Guerrero helps his radical teammate out a little and Benoit's able to go right back on offense. Eddie gets in a few cheap shots as the commentators mention that the Big Show is currently on vacation, so I fully expect Big Show to make an appearance at some point tonight. On the outside, Benoit tries to do some damage to Rock's arm and he's doing a pretty good job. He utilizes the ring post and a steel chair to wear Rocky out, but back in the ring, Rock kicks out of Benoit's cover. Chris tries a cross arm breaker, but he can't get it fully locked in. When the two get up, Rock pulls off a clothesline and Eddie has to jump on the apron when Rock delivers a DDT. The ref doesn't see Rock's cover, so The Rock punches Guerrero off the apron, but then Rock walks right into a crippler crossface and he has to struggle his way to the bottom rope. So Benoit makes Rock pay with a few chops, and yeah, Chris led them in this time around. Rock comes back with a spit punch, Benoit gets put down with a Samoan drop. We get a kick out at 2, so Rock sets his opponent up for a people's elbow by delivering a spinebuster. Benoit's smart enough to get out of the ring, but this was all part of the plan, because Eddie Guerrero distracts the referee, and look, Big Show gave up his vacation so he could take Rock out with a punch to the face, and wait, let's see that again. Yeah, it was more like a big paw to the face. Weird. Anyway, Benoit delivers a German suplex. The ref takes way too long to get back in the ring, but he eventually makes it in and Benoit wins via pinfall. I can't imagine Rock being too happy about how long it took Hebner to get back inside the ropes again, but Chris Benoit defeats The Rock on Raw. You couldn't have imagined this at the beginning of the year. Rock goes after Big Show after the bell, but this was a mistake. Show, Guerrero and Benoit take Rock out pretty easily, and it all ends with the People's Champion taking a diving headbutt. Backstage, Big Show says this was just a preview for what's going to happen at No Way Out. And hey, Big Show tidied up that hair a little and he got rid of his little mustache. I can only assume he was getting Dogg's abuse backstage and he had no choice. Daphne, David Flair and Crowbar ruined the Mamalukes family wedding just before they had to face Johnny and Vito inside the ring alongside Harlem Heat 2000. So when the match got underway, 2 of our teams were covered in wedding cake, which is an upgrade considering what David's usually covered in, you know what I'm saying. Disco's all annoyed that a $7,000 wedding just got ruined, but to be fair, it looked like he paid about $200 for that little shindig. It doesn't really matter though because it's Harlem Heat doing all the damage here. We even get some no-selling from Big Titties, which is always great to see. Crowbar delivers a back elbow to Stevie Ray. Stevie replies with a press slam followed by a slapjack. Vito keeps the match going by breaking up the cover, and then David pretty much hands the match to the champions when he hits Stevie Ray with his crowbar. After the bout, Disco gets in the ring and Harlem Heat decide to take him out. They very nearly really took him out with this slapjack right here from Stevie Ray, and the Inferno was very lucky. This could have been way worse. Big T thinks he can screw up even more than Stevie and Disco, so he delivers a terrible Pearl River plunge to Vito. Stevie Ray has to help Ahmed when Johnny takes a plunge too, but it still looked terrible. You'd hope someone was paying attention here because this was just bad all around. It ends with Crowbar and David returning to attack the Mamalukes. A terrible Nitro match here, and it made Daphne scream in agony. It also made the Mamalukes family cry, and it made me want to stop this series forever. Vito challenges David and Crowbar to a Sicilian stretcher match at SuperBrawl, and that match does indeed take place at the pay-per-view. The Billy Gunn vs Scotty 2 Hotty match took place next on Raw. On Nitro, it's Bam Bam Bigelow vs The Wall, plus Dustin Rhodes vs Chris Kanyon. Billy was doing alright until he missed a top rope move. He then fell victim to a bulldog and Scotty delivered the worm. Badass managed to shake it off though and he pulled off a jackhammer. But when he went for a corner splash, the Grand Master whacked him and Scotty 2 Hotty got a pinfall win. Sore loser Billy Gunn attacked Scotty after the bout, but now Billy has to go back to Triple H and explain why Scotty beat him in the middle of the ring. On Nitro, The Wall vs Bam Bam Bigelow was a typical WCW hardcore match. The two exchanged weapon shots with neither man really gaining an advantage. It was The Wall going through a table that gave Bam Bam the opportunity to deliver some greetings from Asbury Park, and Bigelow successfully defended his hardcore championship. Brian Knobbs attacked Bigelow after the match, which in turn allowed The Wall to hit a chokeslam on the hardcore champion. And the Complete Tit will get a chance to win his hardcore title back at SuperBrawl this week. Next, it's Dustin Rhodes vs Chris Kanyon, and I don't know, I think I prefer the 7 look for old Dustin. Speaking of interesting looks, here comes Chris Kanyon holding Jimmy King's Ready to Rumble world belt and being accompanied by 2 ladies dressed up for Valentine's Day. I remember Bischoff and Kevin Nash saying that Turner's standards and practices were a main reason as to why WCW couldn't compete with the WWF's more raunchy attitude era. But around this time period, WCW was just as raunchy as the WWF, except for Mae Young's tits making an appearance on pay-per-view, of course.
Tutti Frutti!
About 2 minutes of action here, not a lot going on. Dustin delivers Shattered Dreams to Kanyon and the match ends with a chokeslam. Ric Flair may be facing Terry Funk in a Texas death match this week at SuperBrawl, but tonight he's got to face Hulk Hogan, a man who Ric calls nothing more than a mere obstacle. Hogan, meanwhile, says he's going to bury Flair tonight somewhere along the outskirts of the Hudson River. The total package messed up poor Jimmy Hart's arm last week. Flexi Lexi's been breaking quite a few arms recently, as a matter of fact. But Hulkamania is going to run wild on Luger at SuperBrawl right after Hogan gets done with his old enemy, Nature Boy Ric Flair. That match is coming up in just a moment, but first we've got the Kiss Demon vs Booker on Nitro, while Essa Rios takes on Crash Holly on Raw. Crash's cousin Hardcore Holly also takes on Taz. Booker says his brother can continue taking things away from him. They can take away his sick theme song, they can take away the letter T for fuck's sake. But at SuperBrawl, Booker's going to take Big T out of the game, and I say be careful there, Booker. Old Ahmed seems a bit unsafe these days. The God of Thunder makes his way down to the ring for another squash match, and yeah, Booker destroyed the Demon in 1 minute and 2 seconds. Rather than do this nonsense, I'd really prefer if they extended the Dustin Rhodes vs Chris Kanyon match, and I gotta say, this Nitro actually kinda feels like a Vince Russo Nitro. I've been getting Russo vibes since this Nitro began. Even SuperBrawls filled to the brim with backstage promos and short matches. Anyway, Booker wiped the Demon out with a spinning back kick, an axe kick, and a spine buster. Our guy wasn't even worthy of a missile dropkick or a bookend. We've got the Raw debut of Essa Rios and Lita, but this isn't the first time we have seen these guys under different gimmicks. Essa is also the light heavyweight champion. He defeated Gilbert just one night prior on Sunday Night Heat, so hopefully the WWF are going to do a bit more with the light heavyweight belt. Rios was very impressive and Lita wasn't too bad herself. The crowd popped when she performed a Hurricane Rana from the ring steps, and the audience then got treated to this sensational moonsault from Essa Rios. This one scored the win for the light heavyweight champion, and Lita decided to hit a moonsault of her own following the match. Quite an interesting team here, and it will be interesting to see where this one goes. Hardcore Holly couldn't believe his cousin got beaten so easily. Crash is supposed to be a super heavyweight, but he's out here getting beat by a light heavyweight and a woman. So Bastard Bob tells Crash to get out of the ring and watch how it's supposed to be done. Taz's music plays in the arena, the robot suplex machine makes his way down to the ring, and surprisingly, Holly controlled most of the match. As a matter of fact, he pretty much kicked Taz's ass just like he promised. He got a little too confident after a dropkick though, and this is when Taz went for the kill. A Northern Light suplex wasn't enough for Taz to win the match, but moments later he got the chance to lock in a Taz mission, and this would force Crash into the ring to cause a DQ. I'm also not a fan of how the WWF's booked Taz so far, and he's already in danger of getting lost in the shuffle. On Raw next, Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn take on Rikishi in a 2-on-1 match. On Nitro, it's Hulk Hogan vs Ric Flair. Wood from the Hood's back, ladies and gents, and this is also Flair's first Nitro match since October 99. I know he was billed for last week's show, but that doesn't count. I can kinda imagine these two sitting in the back and telling themselves they're going to bring WCW back to the promised land with this matchup right here. And to be fair, they've got the crowd eating out of the palm of their hands. You have to give these guys credit just for the crowd reaction alone. This is what Nitro used to be like. Big shove from Hulk Hogan. Flair's shoulder block has no effect and the Nature Boy goes down again. The crowd are cheering Hogan's name as Flair brings Hulk to the corner, but a big chop has no effect, and you know, as predictable as this match routine has become, there's still something pretty great about seeing it again. Big backdrop from Hulk. A clothesline sends Flair out of the ring. Hogan milks the audience for all they're worth before going outside. The two get in the ring again and Flair tries to beg for mercy. Hulk won't let Rick off so easily though, so Nate tries a few chops that again have no effect. So Flair does what he does best. He gets down and dirty with a low blow. Rick's now going to zone in on Hogan's knees and Hulk gets softened up for the inevitable figure four. Rick goes for it pretty early, but he does get it locked in, and after a bit of a struggle, Hogan reverses the pressure brother and Flair has to let it go. Still, the damage has been done. Flair puts Hulk down with a snapmare, but the silly bastard then goes up for a top rope move. Flair gets launched, but Hogan's knee has been seriously damaged. This would be a problem if Hogan actually sold any of Ric's offense, so it's back to business as usual. It's time to hulk up and put Slick Rick in his place. Mounted punches from Hogan, a forehead bite from Hogan. Flair gets sent over the top turnbuckle and he takes a clothesline. A suplex brings Rick back in and Hogan gets a bit heated in the corner. So Nasty Nick pulls Hulk away and look, brass knucks that don't look like brass knucks, but we'll call them brass knucks anyway. Classic WCW Nitro, folks. I love it. Hogan gets clocked, Jimmy Hart comes out and he gets clocked too. Hogan gets out of Flair's cover and that's it, Rick. You've done it now. Hogan hulks up, big boot, big leg, and our match ends in disqualification when the total package shows up to attack Hogan. Jimmy Hart manages to knock Lex down, but it doesn't take long for the heels to get the upper hand. Terry Funk tries to help out, but Lex takes his chair away and the Funker takes a few shots across the back. But fear not, brothers, because even against these insurmountable odds, the Hulkster still clears the ring out. It doesn't matter that Terry Funk's getting beaten up on the outside. American Made play is in the arena and it's on to SuperBrawl for Hogan vs Luger. Not gonna lie, I kinda enjoyed this. I knew exactly what to expect, and that's okay. Just when we all think it's going to end on a high note, Lex Luger comes back and he whacks Hulk with his baseball bat. And to get the upper hand before the pay-per-view, Hogan gets his arm broke. Maybe this is actually the good ending, I don't know, but Hulkamania's not running wild right now, and Hogan's going into SuperBrawl with a cast on his arm. Surely this won't backfire on Luger, not a chance. On Raw, the Radicals struggled at first when taking on Rikishi 2-on-1. Big Rikishi dished out pop-up cutters and Samoan drops like they were going out of fashion. And Saturn then conveniently sat on his partner's knee so he could take a stink face. Not to be left out, Dean took some asshole in the face too. The Radicals wiped the shit off their faces and they refocused on the task at hand. They struggled to suplex the big man, and to be fair, Rikishi didn't do a great job either. Malenko takes a Rikishi driver, Saturn takes a belly to belly. Rikishi then drags both men over for a banzai drop, but Eddie Guerrero shows up with a lead pipe and the big man gets taken out. The referee calls for the bell and that's it over. Saturn delivers a missile dropkick before Dean tries to injure Rikishi with a few shots to the ankle with that lead pipe, though Too Cool run down to help out their big buddy, and that's how it ends. Let's move on and check out this week's main events before wrapping up. Triple H and his mystery partner take on Kane in a 2-on-1 handicap match. On Nitro, Jeff Jarrett defends his US title against Big Sid Vicious. Triple H comes out to the rampway, followed by X-Pac. Everyone thinks Waltman's going to be Triple H's partner, only Hunter points to the entrance stage again and out comes the Big Show. Still, Kane goes on offense right away and he almost puts Triple H down with a chokeslam, but Big Show saves the world champion and the match gets underway. Kane summons his inner Hulk Hogan by no-selling a few punches. He then delivers a few uppercuts, but he gets caught out with a big choke bomb before Triple H comes in. Facebreaker knee smash, Harley Race knee, and an elbow drop from Triple H. Big Show comes in for a Russian leg sweep, and when Hunter gets back in the ring, Kane takes a DDT. Kane fights back with a clothesline to Triple H, but Hunter then remembers this is an ODQ match and he hits Kane in his wee red machine before grabbing a chair. Show puts Kane on the mat with a sidewalk slam and Triple H looks to end it with a pedigree on the chair. But then the Rock's music plays in the arena and the Great One comes out to get a piece of Triple H in the Big Show. Unfortunately, Rock runs straight into a chokeslam, so yeah, thanks for coming, Rocky. When Kane counters the pedigree and he goes for a chokeslam, X-Pac comes in and the Big Red Machine finds himself in a real bad spot. That's when Cactus Jack shows up and he runs right through Tori to get his hands on Triple H. The Game and Cactus fight on the outside while X-Pac checks on Tori. Big Show's left all alone with The Rock and Kane, and so Rock hits his upcoming No Way Out opponent with a chair shot across the back. Kane delivers a chokeslam to score the pin and the win, and that means Kane will get his no holds barred match against X-Pac at No Way Out. After the bell, Kane and Pac fight on the outside while Rock goes for a people's elbow. Triple H stops it and Rock takes some punishment in the corner. Mick Foley comes back in and he takes everyone out with a very large wrench, and that's how Raw ended this week. It does make you realise how great the babyface and heel balance is right now in the WWF. Outcomes are pretty hard to predict right now and everyone gets treated like a big player, so good stuff. Over on Nitro, Sid says he's going to become a double champion tonight, and at SuperBrawl, both Double J and Scott Hall belong to the big man. We also get a classic kicker be kicking moment from our world champion.
Jeff Jarrett, you have, excuse me. No. You are asking for something.
Kevin Nash, meanwhile, is on the phone to someone, but Nitro's audio so bad that we can't make out a word he's saying. Or at least I can't. I'm sure it's not important anyway. The competitors make their way down to the ring, the match gets underway, and Sid beats the shit out of Jarrett. 2 hard clotheslines put the Chosen One in his place, and following a few mounted punches, Jarrett gets sent over the top rope. On the outside, the destruction continues. Jeff gets beaten up at the guardrail, and Sid decides to throw the US champion over the commentary table. This gets followed up with Double J taking a water bottle over the head, and Sid then hits Jeff with a steel chair. The fans are loving all this, by the way, and so am I. Sid brings the chair into the ring, but this was a mistake, because when the ref takes it away, Double J delivers a low blow. When Sid regains his balls, Jeff applies a sleeper hold, and the US champion brings Sid down to the mat. Sid fights out, Double J goes for a top rope move, his nutsack lands right on Sid's big closed fist, and this leads to Jeff taking a few hard punches, followed by a big boot. Sid signals for the chokeslam. He's about to become a double champion. Jeff takes the move, and Sid doesn't go for the pin. Instead, he wants to powerbomb Double J. A referee bump happens when Sid goes for his finisher. Double J is able to grab the US belt, and he cracks Sid over the head. Double J covers his opponent, and Sid kicks out. So, Double J attacks the referee, Mickey J takes the stroke, but when Jeff tries to take Sid out with the same move, Double J falls victim to a crossface, Sid's new favourite submission hold. The Harris brothers run down to beat up Sid, the crowd chant for Goldberg, but it's going to be a while before he shows up again. Sid takes the Harris brothers out, but he doesn't see Jeff coming in with his trusty guitar. Sid gets whacked, dodgy referee Slick Johnson runs down to make the 3 count, and Jeff Jarrett retains his US title in the Nitro main event. Can he pin the big man again at SuperBrawl 2000? Join me on Sunday and we'll find out. This week we've got a draw. Hogan vs Flair had some great crowd energy, and it was definitely the most fun match of the week, even if the formula's been done to death. But I can't give Nitro the point because they reverted back to having a million backstage promos combined with other short matches. Raw's best match, in my opinion, was Chris Benoit vs The Rock, but every single match on Raw this week had some sort of outside interference or shenanigans going on, except for Road Dogg vs Grandmaster Sexay. I know Nitro's been guilty of this too, but this week it seemed to stick out a bit more for Raw. In the TV ratings, Raw dropped to a 4.4 while Nitro jumped up to a 3.6. Raw was on TV an hour later, which meant the shows didn't even go head to head. Looks like Nitro benefited from this time change while Raw suffered, but still a win for the WWF. SuperBrawl 2000 is our next pay-per-view. The video's already been completed if you want to check it out now on Patreon. Crowbar and David Flair try to win back their tag team belts when they face the Mamalukes. We're going to crown a new WCW Cruiserweight champion. Ric Flair and Terry Funk reignite their old rivalry when they meet in a Texas death match. And we've also got Hulk Hogan making his pay-per-view return when he meets the Total Package in the ring. Our main event features Scott Hall, Double J and Sid in a triple threat match for the world belt, so join me this Sunday and we'll see what happens. I can't promise it's going to be a good show, but we'll sure have fun checking it out. Thank you so much for watching, and please take care.